We are Fandom Roulette.
Two nerds with a passion for
History,
video games,
tabletop games,
and, well, really any nerdy stuff that comes into our lives.
While we might not be able to name every ship classification in Star Wars,
Or every Pokemon.
or every spell in the player's handbook,
Well, one of us can.
we're still here to have a good time. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And on Fandom Roulette, this is a podcast where we talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including such things as history, video games, tabletop role-playing games, and any other nerdy stuff we feel like talking about. Oh, and look out the window, Cody. Ding dong, ding dong, ding
Again?
dong, ding dong. That's right.
Oh.
The Earth has moved around the sun one full calendar year, and it is once again time for our holiday spectacular.
Yeah. Will we ever
Pause
find out
for-
if Joe and Cody ever find true love? Well, I
Yeah,
hope one of them did,
Will we?
because one of them's married. But
that's fair.
that
The
said,
the other one is like it's taking a hiatus on that stuff.
there you go. You do you, boo. You know
Oh,
what?
man,
True
and
love can also be for yourself, all right? Let's not
That's
let's
true.
not
That's
single
beautiful.
anybody out. Love is
That is
love, no
true.
matter who or yourself.
And look at this amazing lineup of special guests we have. We have Willie Nelson. Pause for applause. The cast of the Netflix hit original film A Christmas Prince. Pause for applause. Everyone who participated in the Star Wars Holiday Special, even though a lot of them are dead.
Damn, dark.
Pause for applause. I mean, okay, yeah. God damn it.
Where's your spirit
Hey.
of Christmas?
Hey, I watched that recently. The Star Wars
thought,
Holiday Special.
yeah, I thought George Lucas and like Disney like want that thing dead and buried in the ground forever.
Yeah, they do, and for good reason. It was not good. It was a fascinating experience. It was a fascinating little cultural artifact of like no one knowing what quite to do with Star Wars, I think. Like, oof. Do you know the basic premise of that thing?
Isn't it Ewok related?
It's Wookiee related.
Oh,
actually.
I'm sorry. There is an Ewok special. I just wasn't sure if that was the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
also another
apparently-
unsung hero of the Star Wars franchise.
Apparently the thing came out in between like A New Hope, and I think they hadn't even necessarily announced that they were doing sequels yet. It was just like George Lucas was just like, cha-ching, give me money, please.
I mean, who isn't at the end of the day like, cha-ching, give me money, please?
I mean, that's fair, but I don't think anyone thought through the implications of having like full sequences of Wookiees having conversations with one another. And don't get me wrong, no one loves Wookiees more than me, but you can only listen to so many like before you're like, what is happening?
I'm really glad that those Wookiee classes you got last year are really starting to pay off. Like,
They really...
It's super fluent. Can I just be honest? Super fluent. I knew exactly what you were saying.
You do know exactly what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know
well,
the
I
best
mean,
part
the
about what
audience
I
would
was
be upset if they also knew what you
Yep.
were saying, because you basically
Yeah, I'm
just
glad-
said, fuck the world and it should burn, but, you know.
I'm glad that we went to the exact same joke. Because I was like, Cody knows what I'm saying, but like, boy, howdy, if the censor spoke Wookiees, like this shit would not. We would get the explicit tag for sure.
I mean, we already got the explicit tag, but the Wookiee explicit tag has been marked.
Yeah. Oh God, damn. But
Yeah, like
anyway,
I literally like I heard that and I turned around and I looked at the crew behind me and the fill-in was a Wookiee and he like his jaw dropped.
That's oh shit. Oh no, you didn't tell me that Ted was working today.
Well, we had to fill in because some of the Who's couldn't make it to the Christmas special. They had something to do with the Grinch or some shit.
That's fair. That's true. That rascally devil.
Yep.
Always. So anyway, hey Cody, any other nerdy stuff? What other nerdy stuff have you been up to lately, my friend?
Boy howdy, it's a lot actually.
Hell yeah.
I'll probably get more in depth in when we kind of go back to our normal scheduled content. But
yeah.
I picked up Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Ooh.
And I've been playing that, and I've been, not super spoilers for the episode, but I'm enjoying it. And then I've been watching Mandalorian, but
okay.
I've always purposely been an episode behind. Yeah. So that when we hit the finale, I don't feel like, because the episode before the finale is going to be on a fucking cliffhanger of shit, and I'm going to be so mad. So
that's fair.
I'm going to always be behind until the final episode comes out, and then I'm just going boom boom back to back.
They're going to have that Baby Yoda with like the little torture ball from Empire Strikes Back.
Damn.
Like, hey man, I don't write the rules. I just write the Mandalorian. Yep, that's me. I write it.
Wow. I didn't know that was... when we finally get super famous and people start realizing who we actually are, they're going to be like, wow, they do a lot of cool shit.
You know what was the best part about writing episode 1 of The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Is like, there were whole sequences where like I was just like, Mandalorian sits in silence, and they were like, here's your money. And I was like, thank you.
So good.
What do you think of The Mandalorian?
Mandalorian is great. I haven't watched an episode yet that I have been disappointed in.
Yeah. I liked the one where it was basically just the Magnificent Seven, but with just 2 of them. It was like, yeah, the Mandalorian was like, you can leave those other 5 guys at home. We just do 2.
Well, and I also like the first episode was a little jarring, I guess, because I'm just so used to a very specific type of television viewing. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely weird to get into, but I like the slow pace. I love that Western vibe, and all the Star Wars stuff that comes with it has been really good.
Sure.
But yeah, I've been liking it so far, but I am probably an episode or 2 behind, so
yeah,
I haven't watched the most recent stuff, so I don't know. Like, if it tanks in these last couple episodes, fuck me, right? But right now I like it.
It's only 8 episodes, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, they did say it was going to be fairly short. I mean, short for standard television, but it's still if you think about it, it's more than a movie.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
So, that's pretty cool. But, so Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, we had a session where you guys murdered, some displacer beasts, which was really fun.
Yeah, oh boy, it was fun, wasn't it, huh?
Uh-huh, yeah. I bet you guys had a lot of fun almost dying.
Damn displacer beasts. Stupid.
Yeah, the campaign diary for that one's going to be really good.
Boomerang. I mean, to be fair, Fate ruined it, but...
Fate always ruins everything.
That's fair. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, Fate ruins everything. And just Fate a nat ruins 1. Everything.
Yeah.
So that, D&D... the new this will date the episode, but the new Destiny season pass came out with some new stuff. So I got to play a little bit of it. I'm really excited to sink my teeth into it over the weekend.
Chomp chomp.
Yep, that's actually how I eat food. My wife is very she actually can't sit with me anymore when we eat because it's just chomp, 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 chomp. I don't actually eat like a normal person. I have to almost like a Pokemon. I have to say the thing that I'm doing while I'm doing it. So I'll grab a soda and be like, drink, 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 drink as it's going down my gullet.
That's gotta be really difficult considering how drinking works.
Yeah, I mean, so it's mostly but she knows that I'm saying drink.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I also cough a lot because most of the time it just goes into my lungs. It's a terrible experience. Just all around.
Fun. Who taught you how to drink things?
Nobody.
Hey, I saw Knives Out. It was a good movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see it this Friday.
Oh, it's great. I hope you. I look forward to. We'll talk more about it next time we talk and hang out.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna say anything because I went to that movie completely spoiler free. And
likewise, except
I had a grand time.
Jess and I did the sweepstakes puzzles. If you were, yeah. So
okay,
Knives. It's already over, but Knives Out had like basically this like. Every day they would come out with like a couple of different puzzles using assets and like history about the movie.
Oh, interesting.
So like, and like there would be like a word prompt and it would be like, what is so-and-so's favorite word? And you would have to like use the things that they gave you to like try to guess that. And
oh, that's so cool.
With like varying levels of difficulty. Like some of them were like, all right, read this short book and find all the parts where, like, it was printed wrong and, like, find the clue there. Some of them are, like picture puzzles where it's, like, find the thing that's wrong about this picture kind of a thing. And it was really cool, and each time you succeeded on a puzzle, it gave you another entry into it, but we didn't end up winning anything. Which was kind of a bummer, but like it was still fun to do.
Yeah, no, it sounds really fun. I like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then one other quick thing before we get into history.
Yes.
The past couple of days it's been kind of fun because they've been once again dating the episode. The first few episodes of the Crisis on Infinite Earth CW series crossover show happened.
Yeah, and how's that going?
It's a lot. It was fun, and then now it's on hiatus until like end of January. Lots of Earths got destroyed.
Damn.
There was a crisis, and it was on Infinite Earths. It's based on a comic book from the 80s, I think. It was the 80s, where DC was basically like, all right, we have way too many Earths, and we're going to, like, destroy a bunch of them. And everyone was like, huh, okay. They're like, here's a massive comic about it. And there's, like, a lot of things that happen in it that are, like, were canon for, like, a very, very long time.
Okay.
Like, one of them was that Barry Allen died, like, the original Flash. And he really didn't come back until like the early 2000s. Like he died and he stayed dead for a good long while.
Damn.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. There've been a lot of fun cameos where they're like, "Hey, were you in like a show that was like a DC adaptation from like any point from like the 70s onward? Like, come on over. We'll give you like a couple minute cameo or a couple second cameo."
Yeah,
I heard it's been a lot of fun.
I heard a bunch of people were freaking out about the Smallville cameo.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I've never seen an episode of Smallville, and I was like, damn, that guy is charming.
Yeah, I actually haven't.
Welling.
I haven't watched Smallville either, but I watched a lot of things or not a lot of things. I watched Lucifer recently, and he shows up as like the kind of a side character, and they do make a couple nods to Smallville, which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a charming individual.
Oh yeah, it's been really interesting, and I will say, like, you know, I've watched all of those shows on and off from season to season.
Yeah.
A couple of that, like, it's made me want to go back and revisit a couple of them because I'm like, oh man, I forgot how much fun this show is. But yeah, I feel like if you've not watched a single episode, like, you might be a little confused, but like as a person who hadn't watched like Flash in over 2 seasons or like Arrow in a season and a half or whatever, I was at no point like confused. They did a pretty good job of establishing things without necessarily me like knowing everything that's been happening over the past like 3 years of television for a couple shows. So good on you.
Nice. Now,
all right. So,
before I want a couple of questions about what's it called again? Infinite Crisis?
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Wow, what a name! Crisis on Infinite Earths. Is it supposed to be akin to the Avengers in a way? Like, is it supposed to be at that scale?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to not get into like this like super nitty gritty details of it all.
Sure.
So like there's a dude named the Monitor.
Okay.
And the Monitor's job was to like monitor all of the infinite Earths, and like he's not supposed to get involved or anything. He's just supposed to like sit back and watch. And this was something I was not 100% clear about, but there is another version called the Anti-Monitor, and the Anti-Monitor is like, there are too many Earths, and I want to control the universe, and I want to like build it and make it good. So he creates this antimatter force field wave, and the idea is that he's going to destroy all the Earths, and then he's going to remake the Earth, he's going to remake the multiverse, but in a way that like he can like control like a puppet master. And so the Monitor's like, ugh, can't do this. So he assembles like a team of like the best superheroes, and like, not to be insulting or anything, but like it features largely like the DC CW TV show superheroes. With Superman. There's like two versions of two versions of Superman. And no spoilers or anything, but at the end of the third episode, things are not looking great for our heroes. So
okay. Yeah. So comparing it to the closest thing that Marvel has done, which granted they haven't really done a quote unquote multiverse thing except for small hints at it in various movies. So I guess the closest thing would be the Avengers, because it's like, you know, the idea of a large scale superhero tag team event. Yeah. How does it hold up to like the Avengers and all that?
I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily the most fair comparison in the entire world.
Well, yeah, I mean, movies, and then like obviously like Marvel and DC are like different things. Sure. DC has kind of had a rough go with some of their movies, so like I get that might not be the safest, but like are you having fun like you did with the Avengers?
Yeah, I am actually, because I will say this, like, yeah, the movies are like grim and dour with the exception of Shazam and kind of Aquaman and a little bit Wonder Woman. But like the movies are kind of grim and dour, but like the TV shows on the CW, I will say this, like, I think a common consensus that runs through most of the fandom of these shows are like, are these the best shows that have ever been put on television? No. Like, are these the best superhero properties that have ever been put on television or the film? Probably not, but they are a lot of fun. Cool. And like, you know, even Arrow is probably like the darkest of them, but even then, like, it has a sense of humor and it has a heart. And one of the things that all of those CW shows really lean on, which is something that the movies don't do, and definitely something that I don't think that the Marvel movies do quite as well, is that one of the like DC's biggest strengths is that like all of their characters have like little like family units, if that makes sense. Like they have like, you have your hero, but like the hero has like maybe like a sidekick, and then they have like a couple of friends who like might also have superpowers, who like hang out in the laboratory and like give them advice. And so it's like they're really fun ensemble shows, and they often feature like characters with differing personalities and distinct personalities, and they're a lot of fun because the interplay of the characters are a lot of fun. And like, you know, sometimes the Marvel movies would get there, but it's not like Captain America had like a dude who was like, hey, Captain America, I'm gonna like name all of your villains for you. Like they're like fucking the Red Skull was just like, yes, I am the Red Skull. That is what people will call me. And it's like, that doesn't make sense. On the Red Skull, it's like, yeah, call me Ironmonger. It's like, you probably wouldn't say that about yourself, Ironmonger. They're different, but like I really dig the weird little CW sometimes like the Flash got a little too much for me, but like, yeah, they're like fun. They have a certain level of camp that I like in my superhero media, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah,
I get it. And that's cool.
Yeah.
Because I do kind of, because you brought it up that like the heroes kind of have sidekicks or like they have like close knit friends, and I feel like Marvel tried to do that, but with their television shows. Like Daredevil having those two characters, and now my brain, like literally as I'm trying to
Foggy and
I was about to call him Froggy, and I was thinking of Sonic 06, which
sure. And then he had to do a barrel roll.
Yeah, and he had to go catch a frog, and
sure.
But yeah, I feel like they were trying to do that with the Marvel shows, but like that never really stuck well because they always ended up just being these characters that like they constantly either had to deceive or protect. Like it never was like, yeah, cool, be my sidekick, or like, hey, can you help me out? It was always like,
no, I can't do that, or you're gonna die.
And just like, you know what I mean? Like it's like,
oh, for sure.
So yeah, I think that's neat. I think that's something we don't really see a lot in modern television. So like that's kind of cool. I like that aspect of those shows that you just said.
And I also think like to a certain degree, like television shows are better for that and for like ensembles in general, because it's like, oh my gosh, like if you have 26 episodes, that's like, like you can have an entire episode where like characters like B and C like get a little bit more of a spotlight, or something like that. Whereas with a movie, like if you have 3 hours, like you have to really make choices about who gets featured. Yeah, exactly.
Right. No, that makes sense. Like the closest we got on like a buddy thing is like when the Avengers got together. But even then it was very like, because you could tell immediately that like Tony Stark and Bruce Banner kind of hit it off really well. And like Cap usually hung out with like Black Widow and like someone else. But that never like became a cool thing that was like a throughout for the Marvel movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I mean, at least to a certain degree. Because, like, now I'm thinking about the second Captain America movie, and, like, Black Widow is, like, a huge part of that, but, like, I don't know, we still never really, like, I know she's getting her own movie, so we're gonna learn a lot about her or whatever, but it's like, you had a movie where you could have learned a lot about her, but instead you were like, nah, dog, Cap needs to be on screen.
Sure. I mean, and it's also, like, fucking contracts and all kinds of weird
shit.
It's a whole lot. Movies are just different beasts in general.
Man, talk about an opener.
Yeah.
I just looked at the fucking time.
Let's keep going. It's going to be a first ever hour-long opener. No, all right, let's jump into some history. Let's do that.
Yeah. Let's get into the content.
I want to talk about nice history, damn it.
To be fair, I know I make the joke every time, like, oh, what kind of racist, sexist, bigotry am I going to learn today or whatever?
That's the world.
Yeah, and that's kind of the world at large if you find a through line. But,
and so, like, this isn't, like, there's still going to be some little dark elements to my history section. But, this week, I want to talk about, A Christmas Carol, the novel by Charles Dickens, which was published in the year. Give me a second. It comes up later in my notes, so we'll talk about it when we get there. But so there was like a movie that came out, I think 2 years ago, something like that. That was called The Man Who Saved Christmas.
Okay,
and it was about Charles Dickens and writing The Christmas Carol. And so it's also gonna be a little bit, although this is something that I could devote an entire episode to, kind of the reemergence of Christmas as an important holiday. because this might come as a surprise to some people. Christmas hasn't always been a huge, big, important celebration day.
God, if you asked fucking Marketing America, they would disagree entirely. But it's so wild how, at least here in America, Christmas is just like, it's so fucking huge. Like, it becomes this, like, ordeal that, like, I can't, like, in my head, being a 30-something-year-old dude being like, fuck, like, Christmas has always been a huge thing over here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and yeah, exactly.
So, like, the idea that at one point Christmas over here in the States was kind of like, yeah, fucking Christmas what? Like, that I'm interested to hear more about this, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so this was actually especially true in England. And in fact, this largely stems from the fact that England became Protestant. So England, of course, is the main religion of England is Anglicanism, which is sometimes referred to as the Church of England, and in America is referred to as Episcopalianism, which was the Protestant faith that was founded by King Henry VIII after the Pope wouldn't let him divorce Catherine of Aragon, the queen at the time. And so basically the Pope was like, I guess I'm not going to be Catholic anymore. We're going to start our own religion. Now, a few monarchs later after him, there was a monarch named Charles I. He was the monarch during the English Civil War, and he lost the English Civil War to the regime of Oliver Cromwell, who was a very like puritanical man who was arrested for his sort of like religious extremism, but he took over England for a while, and this was referred to as the Commonwealth period. And so during this period, Cromwell actually banned Christmas outright because it was seen as being an incredibly Catholic ceremony. And they were trying to move away from Catholicism and the various trappings of Catholic celebrations and things like that. So they actually did make it illegal for the Catholic Church. Some of the reasons for this was that there was like no evidence that the birth of Jesus was actually in December. I think we all know this. It's actually more of it was kind of the Catholic faith taking this celebration of Saturnalia and turning it into a more like religious tradition. This was a Roman celebration. But the other thing about it too was that aspects of the celebration of Christmas were seen as like wrong and disruptive and unruly, things like that. So it involved lots of things like moving bands of what people would refer to as like mobs roving through the streets, demanding, you know, treats and money and things like that from people. Not like large sums of money, mind you. But like, you know, the Christmas Carol where they're like, now give us some figgy pudding. Like, there was this sort of level of expectation that if a band of revelers were to come to your house, you were to give them some kind of treat or some kind of compensation for their revelry. It was seen as very disruptive, sometimes destructive, and not a great thing. And for the record, this was not the only banned holiday in England for being too Catholic. The other big one was Halloween. Halloween was seen as too Catholic, and so they actually removed they stopped celebrating Halloween in England and replaced it with Guy Fawkes Day, which happens on the 5th of November, so it's still within close proximity of Halloween. And for at that time, Guy Fawkes Day involved giving out little treats like little pieces of candy or little coins to people roaming around with Guy Fawkes effigies. We'll do a whole episode on Guy Fawkes Day. It's one of my favorite holidays. So really the only celebration to survive was Easter. That's like one of the few religious celebrations that is like explicitly talked about in the Bible, right? That's something that we can successfully, you know, identify and celebrate and things like that. All these other ones, there wasn't a lot of, there's not a lot of official word one way or the other of when it happened, but in the Bible, Easter always happened. Easter happens during Passover, and so therefore we can celebrate Easter around Passover as well. But so for this is about, I would say like a good century. Christmas is kind of poo-pooed and seen as this celebration that no one really wanted to take part of in England, which kind of travels over to America as well. And this is not to suggest that everywhere didn't celebrate Christmas, as we'll see, but at least in the English sense, it was not a very well liked or very well celebrated holiday. But, and this is kind of the strange thing, England was also responsible for kind of bringing back Christmas in a weird way. And so one of the main reasons for this is because of the reign of Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria was the long reigning monarch of England, and her beloved husband, Albert, was German. And so because of this, he brought with him many Germanic traditions, one of which included the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is actually a Germanic thing. There are people who link it to, so at the end of the day, it goes back to, once again, a pagan tradition, the Christmas tree. But it was kind of popularized by Martin Luther and others. And this picture of the royal family decorating the Christmas tree is published in an English newspaper, and then suddenly every respectable middle-class family wouldn't be caught without a Christmas tree, because if the Queen had one, we'll have one too. Along the same lines, Christmas carols were starting to make a comeback in popular culture. There were several publications of books of Christmas songs that were starting to become very popular with the middle class, and it seemed as if England was kind of reanalyzing their stance on this December celebration. And then along the same lines, as when England kind of won America, we were no strangers to Germanic traditions in America, but once England started really re-embracing this, it started becoming more fashionable for American families to re-embrace it as well. And through all this, we see enter Charles Dickens. So Charles Dickens is a popular writer, and in 1843, the man was poor and kind of desperate and was really looking for a hit. Most of his other books hadn't really succeeded all that well in recent years, and he had this idea for a little novella about a story of redemption at Christmas time. Dickens was always fascinated by Christmas. Some of his earliest short stories feature Christmas. In fact, one of his books actually features a story of a man who gets redeemed by Christmas goblins. And a lot of people see some of the foundational work of A Christmas Carol in this little book. So, basically, Christmas Carol, though, becomes his most known work. So it's a relatively simple story. It's about a miserly man named Ebenezer Scrooge, who, after being visited by spirits of his past, present, and future, decides that he's going to redeem himself, becoming selfless and charitable, who helps his neighbors. And then another little thing about this book as well, as a child, Dickens had to work in horrible working conditions because his father was a debtor. And so in order to help keep his family out of debt, little Charles basically gave up his education and went to go in the workhouses. So he truly and honestly saw how the other half lived, working in dark, dangerous, dingy, horrible places like workhouses and things along those lines. So he really saw how people lived, and all in a way to keep his family fed. So there are aspects of these that run throughout his novels. Oliver Twist takes place in an orphanage, and then largely becomes a story about a young man who has to become a thief. Most of his books feature these horrible working conditions. And A Christmas Carol is really no different. During the third section, the third stave, the Scrooge character is greeted by the ghost of Christmas Present, who is initially presented as this very large, jolly, almost Santa Claus-esque figure, who shows Scrooge various celebrations of the middle class as they're, playing games and singing songs and doing all of these different things. But over time, he starts showing Scrooge examples of people who are hard workers, people who are poor and destitute. In fact, one of the places he visits is the house of his own sort of clerk, Bob Cratchit, a poor man with a very large family. But there's a kind of difference here. In A Christmas Carol, they are suffering, and Dickens doesn't really, beat around the bush with this. He shows the lives that they lead, but they're happy. Happier than the rich Scrooge because they have family and love. He's not suggesting by any means that these people, are happy year round or things like that, but he does suggest that there are more things to happiness than just simply wealth. And then one other thing, the Ghost of Christmas Present, at the end of his sequence, the ghost shows Scrooge two specters that are presented as hideous, monstrous children, the children men that he protects during the year. There are two of them. The boy is ignorance and the girl is want, and he tells Scrooge to fear them both, but fear more the boy, for ignorance breeds evil things. It's a simple and really lovely little story of redemption. It's of a man who learns to be better and do better at a magical time of year. The book was a smash success. It sold out by Christmas Eve, which was about 6 days after its original publication. That's how popular this book came in such a quick time. And today it remains one of the most successful Christmas books ever, with countless adaptations, including film, stage, cartoons, comedy shows, things like that. The story of Scrooge has become one that has resonated with many people. Even if you've never read the book, there's a chance you've seen a movie or you've seen someone parodying it in some way. Is this really the book that saved Christmas? Was it really written by the man who saved Christmas? Probably not. Christmas was certainly on the rise again, but it helped. It made people think about this time. It made people see this time as a different time and as a magical time, as a time for doing better, being better, looking out for your neighbors, looking out for the poorest among us. And it did really, at the end of the day too, it did one very important thing. It repopularized a phrase that had fallen by the wayside, and that phrase was Merry Christmas. So there we have it. Any questions about Christmas Carol or that sort of early Victorian period of the reemergence of Christmas?
Boy, howdy. Gosh, that was a lot to take in.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I've ever read the entirety of A Christmas Carol. I've only ever seen the various movie renditions of it,
sure,
like Scrooged and there's a Muppet one, I believe. Yeah,
it's my favorite one.
Yeah, the Muppet one was really good. Really I watched that a lot as a kid. God, I'm actually really, I guess I'm surprised that it did so well, considering it was basically anti-capitalism to a certain degree.
Yeah, a lot of his books, there's a lot of that in his books.
Exactly. And so I'm actually more surprised that it trended so well.
Mm-hmm. I didn't dive too much into it. Perhaps I can do this like in another holiday special in the future. I guess there was like this big debate about like, was this a socialist, or not? I don't know if they necessarily had the word for it yet, but like, was this a book that hated the rich and capitalism? Was this like a spiritual book or like a Christian book that was like really driving people to like, reanalyze and things like that? So I guess there was a debate in the time about like what his motive was with this book.
Right.
If you look at it in the larger trend of his stuff, like most of his books are about like, yes, like screw rich people, basically.
Yeah, and like totally makes sense, like with the fact that like that's the life he lived and how much that sucked, and so he wanted to write to, you know, potentially make an impact like that. So like it totally makes sense that it was very much as much as it was like, hey, you know, we should all try to be better people and not be so fucking sleazy and shitty to one another, but also like, yo, fuck the rich people, am I right?
Yep. Yeah. And it's so weird because, like, once again, this book really does endure. Like, it seems like every few years, everyone's trying their own hand at another Christmas Carol adaptation. In fact, there's one, like, right now, if memory serves. Like, they're doing a new one. There was one with Patrick Stewart when we were kids that I thought was really good. Things like that, so. But yeah, it's a popular book, and it's always surprising to me, like, how important it was to kind of reestablishing Christmas as, like, a celebration, because...
Oh my god, you're not kidding.
What?
I went and looked. I was like, I can't believe they're trying to do another Christmas Carol movie.
Yeah, it's starring Guy Pearce.
Yeah, Tom Hardy, Guy Pearce, Andy Serkis. Mm-hmm. I guess FX is making it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It seems like it's just one of those things you do it every couple of years. Like, you try to do a Tarzan every couple of years. You try to do a Christmas Carol every couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. One's a little bit more popular than the other one. One's aged a little bit better. But, yeah, Tarzan's a little bit rough.
Tarzan is definitely pretty rough.
Yeah, lots of
unpacking with that one.
Yeah, lots of white people talking about, like, the noble savage.
Oh, big oof.
Yeah, it's not fun. But anyway, yeah, so any questions about Christmas Carol, or want to stew on it?
I have I guess this is more of a silly question, and a silly question for the audience, too.
No such thing.
Which ghost would be the most likely to visit you if only one of them would visit you?
Oh gosh.
I know the whole point is that he like learns about everything, but like he learns a lesson in each one.
You know, it's really interesting, like to me. You know, this is like one of my dad's favorite books, and so like, he would read it to me when I was a kid, and we would watch adaptations when I was a kid and things like that. And as a kid, like, The Ghost of Christmas Present was always my favorite one, because, like, you know, he starts off, he's super jolly and he's super a Santa Claus, and as like a little kid, I'm like, oh, I recognize this is Santa Claus. Like, you know, he never says the words or anything like that, and it's more of like the English Father Christmas and like Santa Claus, like we know him, but like there's a lot of, you know, it's a big jolly guy and he laughs a lot, and then as I got older, I really started appreciating what The Ghost of Christmas Present was representing, because, you know, he starts off super friendly and super jolly, and it's the one that Scrooge likes the most initially. You know, he's not fond of the other two, and for, you know, the future, rightfully so. But over time, the Ghost of Christmas Present, like his sort of jolly facade, he never goes away, but it starts becoming far more critical. And there's this really powerful moment when they're at the house of Tiny Tim, and Bob Cratchit and the Cratchit family, where Scrooge shows a certain level of empathy towards Tiny Tim, and he goes, well, is Tiny Tim going to be okay? And the ghost looks at him and he says, are there no workhouses? Are there no prisons? And that's the thing that Scrooge says to people looking for charity the day before, and he goes, you're using my words against me, that's not fair. And he goes, well, you know, like if he's going to die, then he should do it and decrease the surplus population, which once again is something that Scrooge says the day before. And Scrooge goes, why are you saying these words to me? And basically, like, the ghost says in not so many words, this is of course like a Joe paraphrase, like it's really like, it's, you know, how are you, like, yeah, he says all this with all the stammers and all the stutters and stuff in there. Basically, the implication is like, now that you're actually seeing a real poor person you're seeing a poor person living their life, and you're realizing that they are an actual human being. And it sucks that you are now hearing the very words that you said about how poor people should be handled, because you're realizing that they are human, and that there is and so like there's always like the Ghost of Christmas Present has one of those things where it's like it's built in meaning for me over the years. And like this idea of like, as a kid, he's very relatable because he's what you recognize and he feels the most like Christmas. And as you get an adult, you realize that while he's very jolly, you know, he's the protector of the meek and the weak, especially at Christmas time, and how, like, you know, he sees the inherent humanity in everyone, and he sees the inherent humanity in everyone, including Scrooge. And it's that day's like the one that I think always hits me the most. Yeah.
Gotcha.
What about you? What ghost would visit you? You want that Grim Reaper, don't you?
I mean, see, it's been so long since I've seen those movies that I'm starting to even kind of forget what each one's message is. I know, like, the overall message, but it's kind of hard to remember all that. I would fear future.
Yeah.
But I would probably say I would probably be visited by the past.
Okay.
'Cause that is, without getting too off kilter or off track, something that I think and struggle with pretty regularly.
Sure.
But yeah, that would be my thought.
Yeah. So that being said, shall we move into the
middle section?
Hey guys, welcome to the middle section.
Welcome.
So at this point, we're gonna put in like a
Nope.
We have
probably not.
Fandom announcement.
We do have an announcement.
Do you want to do the announcement?
Yeah, I'll hit it up. So
hit it up.
So long story short, we've been doing this for roughly 3 years now. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
And in our 3 years, we've been doing a lot of fun things, but we wanted to try, you know, we always like to keep things fresh. We always want to make sure we're doing things that the audience likes. And some of the feedback that we've gotten over the years, we're going to try something a little new, a little wild. Ultimately, the Fandom Roulette name has always and always will be if we're going to put this in YouTube terms, it's the channel in which we exist. It's ultimately we are nerds doing fun nerd things and welcome everybody to enjoy in the festivities of being a huge giant nerd. That said, the way we do the podcast and having kind of the rotating seasons and the rotating like bits per episode, we're going to split it up. We're still going to do the rotating seasons. But instead of having it be one video or one podcast that comes out every other week, we're going to split up the podcast into 3 smaller podcast recordings that will still be the same stuff. You're just going to get them during those 2 weeks instead of all of it at one point at the end. So basically what's going to happen is the history section is going to go up on a certain day during that 2-week period, then the video game section, and then the role-playing game section. And the idea behind this is that we're going to test this. We're going to see what people like and kind of make, we want to engage people and we want people to enjoy the things that we're doing. So the more you like a certain bit or a certain segment of the podcast, you can now just watch that. You don't have to like go through each episode and try to find or, look through the timestamps to find the part that you want to listen to. You can just wait for that bit to show up. And,
sure.
Ideally what will happen after this is that our Fandom Roulette little bit is going to expand. We're going to do new sections and new videos so that it won't just be 3 every 2 weeks. It'll be 4 or 5 or, as we grow and we figure out what we want to do. So yeah, expect after we get through the kind of holiday / New Year event, we're going to split up the podcast into 3 to 4, depending on the week, smaller, content bits that you can just go and grab the thing that you like and be like, I want to watch that.
Nom nom nom.
Nom 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 nom.
Yeah. And hey,
that's that was the big announcement.
Hell yeah. Where can people find us?
You can
where can you find the episodes to listen to them?
You can find them on our website at www.fandomroulette.com, where all of the episodes are. And you can also find us on iTunes and SoundCloud and Spotify and YouTube. YouTube's still behind, as it's been a very busy holiday season.
Yeah. Whew,
but
December, right?
But those, as long as COPPA doesn't absolutely destroy YouTube in its tracks, we should be on all those platforms.
Heck yeah. And what are some social media places that you can get in contact with us?
Well, the big one is Twitter. You can get at us at fandomr_podcast. That is our Twitter handle. If you want to leave us a comment, if you want to tell us about your favorite nerd thing, you want to ask us questions, anything and everything, that is where we will see it. We're also on Facebook, doing the Facebook thing. You can find us there at Fandom Roulette. And then we're also on Instagram, where we take pictures and do fun things with, just kind of our going-ons. My wife and I just finished our basement, so there will definitely be pictures of that coming soon. It's super rad.
It's
Love
nice.
it. And so, yeah, that's where we kind of do our, day-to-day life stuff and, episodes and things like that.
Yeah. And yeah, is that it? Did I miss anything?
If you want to send us a longer response,
yeah, that's right.
You can send us an email at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com. Or if you don't feel comfortable sending us your email, totally get it. At the bottom of our website, there is a little area where you can just fill out a handle if you want to leave a handle and your thoughts about the podcast, and we can go into that area, read that stuff, and you don't have to worry about giving your email out.
Yeah. And on that note, should we get back to the content?
Yeah.
All right. There are no good Christmas video game characters, so no one showed up this week.
Yeah, after the last time, I ruined everything, but I did find somebody.
Oh yeah?
I found the ghost of Giftsmas Past.
Whoa!
Ooh.
How thematic.
I know, it's like we planned this. Ooh.
Pre-planning meetings.
It's so scary when we do things before the episode.
I know, right? Oh, I hate it.
It's great. I love it.
So anyway, hey, what's up, Ghost of Giftmas Past?
We are going to talk about video games and stuff to give people, because giving gifts, especially video games, is scary and terrifying.
That's a good point. Can you give me some advice to Ghost of Giftmas Past?
Well, Giftmas Past. I'm gonna jump in here and.
Hey, welcome back, Cody. Cody, did you meet my good friend, the Ghost of Giftmas Past?
Yeah, everyone give a round of applause for the Ghost of Giftmas Past.
Say hello to the
Giftmas.
Say hello to the Ghost of Giftmas Past, Cody. Have a conversation with him a little bit.
Me personally having a conversation with him? He's right here.
Yeah, do it, Cody.
No, I'm not gonna
see how hard it is to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Don't ask me to do that. So, anyways, we went over last year that there are no good Christmas video games that exist. They're just all bad, and they're all just fucking shovelware garbage. And And I was thinking about it, and to keep on brand with like just, you know, the 3 different segments, I wanted to talk about giving the gift of video game, because that's hard. And I wanted to like kind of go over that. And in my honest opinion, if you're going to give somebody a video game for Christmas, for any gift giving holiday, it doesn't have to be for Christmas. The best advice I can give you is to just ask them what they want. There are millions of games, and everyone is so different. I could tell you the top 10 games of the year are going to be perfect for that person, and they will hate 9 of the 10 that I gave you.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the rough part, but it's easy. You just ask them what they want. Best part is, you can even be like, hey, can you send me an Amazon link so I know like what it looks like so that I can pick up the right thing? You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
And the thing about giving games is like, they can be expensive. It's a hobby that can be very expensive very quickly. So getting the wrong game or getting a gift receipt, like doing the whole rigmarole, like that sucks. So like getting it on the first shot feels better. And like, you know, like if they ask like, oh, I want such and such game, you know, you're giving them something that they actually want to play and that money is being well spent. And I guess technically as a last resort, you could give them gift cards to like Amazon, Best Buy, GameStop. If they're PC gamers, you can give them Steam gift cards. Those are pretty popular. Like, but let's just say for the sake of argument, so that there's actually content here, that you can't do the 2 things that I just suggested. I have a potentially 90% safe guarantee of a game, as long as they don't have it this Christmas.
Okay.
I've got one, and it's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, dunk.
Yeah, dunked. This game is great. It has a difficulty scale that makes it either, you know, if the gamer in your life is, you know, casual or like hardcore, like I play Dark Souls because I enjoy dying every 5 seconds, like that game scales to all directions. It is accessible to basically any difficulty level, and it's the first single-player Star Wars game in years. Since Force Unleashed 2, which was ages ago, where it's like, it's a no bullshit game. It's fun. It runs pretty well. And I'm playing it on the PlayStation, so as far as I've been playing, it's been fun. As far as I know, there aren't any microtransactions that I've run into. Not sure about DLC, but it's just like, it's a solid single player game. Like, and it's been a long time. EA is notorious for just producing not great games and filling them with microtransactions and DLC and all this bullshit that like I don't care for. This is like the one rare exception to that rule. I like, I'll talk more in the episode where I talk about this game, why I think this is such a great game, but it's a great game. And if you can't, like, if you want a safe game and that you know they don't have this one, pick it up for them. They are going to fucking love it.
Got it. Interesting. And what platforms is this available on?
I'm pretty sure it's all of them. PS4, Xbox. Not sure on, you know what? Don't normally do this, but we're going to do it this time.
Is it on the Switch? I don't know.
No, I'm just going to look up the... Sorry, guys. Usually I come more prepared, but here we are.
I tripped you up with the...
Okay, so it's not on the Switch, but it's on PS4, Xbox, and computer.
Okay.
Still solid game. So if you can't do the things that I suggest, which I highly recommend before just picking a game at random, I would say this is a pretty safe bet, as long as they don't have it.
Sure.
That said, there are a couple of games that I really enjoyed this year.
Sure.
And I wanted to bring some, we'll call them honorable mentions. I think these are generally fun, at least for my taste. And I was really excited about these games. And I think they were, I don't know if they're going to go on my, like, games of 2019 list, per se. Some of them might, for sure. But I would enjoy picking up these games for various reasons. For the holidays, or for just general gift giving. And the top one on that list is Fire Emblem Three Houses. That game is rad as fuck. It's a RPG turn-based battle system with a school, like a Hogwarts style simulator attached to it. It's fucking rad. Control for the PC was it was a game that came out kind of at the tail end of summer. And it has these cool kind of X-Files Alan Wake vibes. It's from the same people who did Alan Wake. And it's this woman who kind of gets involved in this weird government, like, side program that deals with, we'll call it supernatural, but it's a little more involved in that. It was really fun. My only gripe is that it runs like garbage on the consoles. So if I were to get this, I would have loved to get it for the PC.
Sure.
Resident Evil 2 came out this year. Ugh, that game was so good. The remake, just improved upon the initial Resident Evil 2 game. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening was a really good throwback, like, remake game. I loved it, and if you have a Switch, you should definitely pick it up. And then one of the personal ones that I'm enjoying a lot is Pokemon Sword and Shield. That's another Switch game. Actually, most of the ones on this list were Switch games, but Pokemon Sword and Shield's fun if you have a younger person to give a gift for, or just people who like Pokemon in general. Not necessarily targeted for just kids. But yeah, those are the games that I would have enjoyed, and that's about the best advice I can give for giving gifts in general to gamers.
Okay. Now, I do have one quick question for you, Cody.
Absolutely. You have as many questions as you want.
What was your favorite video game gift as a kid?
Ooh, as a kid?
Yeah.
Wow, that's tough.
I can tell you mine. It was getting a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Yellow.
Hell yeah.
And then getting so mad that they gave you an electric type, and then they just threw you at the rock gym, and that electric types didn't do great against rock type Pokemon.
Nope, it was absolutely awful, and their solution to that was like, oh, by the way, go over to the side where they don't tell you to go and catch a fighting Pokemon that'll destroy the rock one.
Yep. But anyway, that was my favorite gaming gift was my Game Boy Color.
Hell yeah. So. Mine's 2. And I'm trying to decide which one's my favorite. So
I'll give them both.
In my younger days, I got Pokemon Red.
Okay.
And that like just started a downward spiral into my Pokemon addiction. Those games are so good. And then my other favorite was I got a GameCube and Pikmin, which was amazing. It was so good that funny story about this one. So the GameCube was like, it had weird marketing, as Nintendo usually does. And so, like, the GameCube had this, like, handle on the back. And the idea is that it was, like, it was a portable console. Like, something that you can move around very easily. And the reviews of it is, like, this thing is indestructible. Like, it's like, it can withstand, like, children, like, basically doing what they normally do with consoles, which is what you're not supposed to do. And so in my excitement of getting it, I like put it over my head like Link in The Legend of Zelda, but I did it in the worst possible place in my house where the ceiling drops a little lower than the rest of the house. And so for a brief moment, I thought I broke my GameCube when I basically like, for a lack of a better term, threw it into the ceiling without letting go of it. Just like kind of smashing it into the ceiling for a hot second. It still works. If my GameCube is still alive, it still works. But
fun.
But yeah, like even before I could boot the thing up for the first time, I like hit the ceiling with it and it worked. And at least until I either sold it or whatever. I don't know what happened to it. But yeah, that was also a really good experience.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff always. It was always fun getting video games for presents, but...
Yes, video games are super fun, and getting them as gifts can be, like, some of the most exciting moments, at least for me as a kid. I didn't get games, like, as they came out. Like, it was always, like, you had to wait for a birthday or Christmas to get a game, and you'd only get, like, a game or two. So it was like, you gotta pick your games wisely, you know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
So, like, when I got one, it was like, yes! Ah!
Oh, you felt like a king, so.
Yeah, you did. You felt like royalty, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah. Any other final thoughts on video games, or because I have the answer for you and a party of adventurers, but
final thoughts. Definitely ask people what they want.
There you go.
It's not that weird, I promise.
Especially when you're an adult.
Definitely when you're adult. It's actually the least weird.
I would agree with that. But anyways, do I know the answer to my Uniparty of Adventurers?
Yeah, so we had the last time we recorded, you prompted us with a you and a group of adventurers line. Do you want to re-say the line and then the answer, or do you want to actually say the prompt again? I will take my guess, and then you tell me what the real answer is.
So it was you and a party of adventurers will take pride when you have to reclaim your home from your scheming family member.
And my guess is Lion King.
Hell yeah!
Yes!
Yeah, pride, because that's what you call a group of lions.
Well, not only that, but like the whole most of like the big important bits of the movie happen on Pride Rock.
Yeah, that too. Do you have a new one for me?
I do, and it's we'll see how this one goes. I kind of came up with this on the fly, but you and a group of adventurers must stop an ingenious heist for precious resources and your romantic interest.
Whoa. Heist for... We have to stop a heist for what? Can you please read it?
For precious resources.
Precious resources.
And your romantic interest?
Huh.
I will give you 2 hints.
Is this a movie?
This is a movie, so that's the first hint and the part of it. This is also, we will call it Christmas adjacent.
Oh, is it what I think it is?
Maybe, but you will have to find out on the next episode.
Dun dun dun.
So yeah, if you want to join in on this, we're you can tweet at us or message us, however you want to send us your guess. to
It was Fandom R Adventures, I believe.
Fandom R Adventures, or just, send it to our social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, shall we go on to the last section?
Yeah, so our last little bit, man, we have gone on about as long as I was expecting, but it always creeps up, and I'm like, damn, what an episode. So,
what an episode.
Yeah. So we've talked about holiday tabletop role-playing game stuff. We've talked about just kind of like creating a one-shot, doing all sorts of stuff. But I kind of wanted to, since our current season, we are working towards making the audience and Joe more comfortable with being game masters or dungeon masters or whatever you want to call it. I kind of had I wanted to have an impromptu discussion on something that will come up later, building encounters. And so the prompt that I wanted to bring is, what would you do in your game to make a snowy environment, like a tundra or like a harsh winter storm, fun for your players?
That's a great question, Cody.
It is a good question.
So, I guess the major question I would have is, a couple of things I would consider is, really make that storm like a ticking clock.
Okay.
Where you kind of see the beginning, see it in the distance, and you do have multiple you do have multiple solutions or multiple things available that they can do to win. So there's not like a one win scenario. So perhaps there's like a cave that they could run over to and find shelter. Perhaps there's just having that constant looming threat of a big storm coming. That being said, too, you really got to build up the tension and the dramatics of it all. I'm not suggesting like a big summer or what was that movie called? What was that Jake Gyllenhaal ice movie called? Was it the global warming movie?
Yeah,
Oh my god. I want to say the Sum of All Fears, but I know that's not the right answer. Whatever. How like that one, it was like it hit and it was like everyone was like dead in 10 seconds. That's
that
bullshit.
Movie is called The Day After Tomorrow.
Thank you. The Sum of All Fears was a spy movie.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I'm like, that can't be right. So I needed to double check.
Oh, I knew it was wrong. That was literally the only movie title I could think of. If you were like, "Hey Joe, what's that movie with the hobbits and the ring and the dwarf and the elephant?"
And you were just like, The Sum of All Fears.
I'd have been like, "Yeah, I think it's called The Sum of All Fears," and you're like, "Wrong. It's The Lord of the Rings." But anyway, yeah, like I would have it one of those things where you ramp up the threat over time. So it's not like as soon as that storm hits, you're dead. It would be one of those things where, perhaps, in the first couple of rounds, it creates difficult terrain or something. Because, it's hard to walk in storms, especially storms with huge gusts of winds and things like that. And then the longer they go, then, you might start slowly doing, cold damage, or maybe start imposing like limited sightline or things like that. That's probably how I would handle the storm aspect of it. Is make it the looming threat, and then when it finally comes up, you slowly ramp up the effects of it. So it's not like a gigantic storm that impacts you right away. It's slow things over time, also giving your party plenty of time to come up with a contingency plan, like finding shelter, or having the wizard cast a spell to protect you, or something along those lines. In terms of animals, I know that Arctic animals are all rather well designed, evolutionarily speaking, to hide out in snow and things like that. So, if you're not doing the threat thing, making your players do a higher and higher series of perception checks with more levels of difficulty, considering that, an Arctic wolf is really good at blending in with their surroundings. Same with, most Arctic animals in general are really good. So, making those checks difficult to really sell the kind of isolation, and of course, making it difficult to find food and things. I also think one of the things I might do as well is, have remnants of other expeditions to not only establish threat but also to create sort of like refueling posts along the way, that I would scatter little things like maybe little things here and there that would aid the players along the way as they go along in this cold, unforgiving tundra. So those are some of my thoughts. Any thoughts, Cody?
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts, but I wanted to say those are good. I think the general concept of, especially like winter, and like just the general like idea of going into terrain like that where you're not you might be familiar with it, but often it's, at least in the games that I've seen or have played, winter doesn't get used not nearly as often as it could.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the general idea of winter being a looming threat, because it like, it's the reason why, most people try to avoid those areas of our planet. And if they do go there, it's for a very specific reason, not just like, man, I really enjoy freezing to death up here. It's real good. It's fun. Sure. So yeah, definitely, leaning into the kind of environmental effect of it. And it really depends on the kind of game and like what kind of challenge you want, obviously. But I think some fun ideas is what you said, having a ramping situation where like the further you get into the cold, or like the further you get into like a winter snowstorm, like the like even mundane things like traveling and staying on target to get to a certain point becomes progressively harder unless you wait out the snow. I love the idea of creating a scenario where the party has to think very carefully about how they progress through it. Do they try to weather the storm and like press on, or
sure.
So having like different options and like different ideas, or letting the players come up with the ideas, like, oh, can we find a cave? And being like, yeah, sure, there might be a cave, and you decide how difficult it would be for that, and like, kind of gambling to see how far you can push before being like, all right, we really need to like hunker down and wait it out.
Yeah,
it's a good time to use white dragons, because like that's their fucking terrain. Really good monster if you want to use that. But I also agree with you there. Like, most Arctic creatures have kind of evolved to be deadly in their environment. Yeah. And it would be even more deadly, especially if like, the idea that like things are cold and like hopefully your party bundled up and like brought like
sure.
furs and things to keep themselves warm. Because if they didn't, like, I would, if there was a, like, especially with like food and water and heat, those are the big ones. Like, having those be extra difficult and like causing like maybe levels of exhaustion, or not being able to, get all your health points back, depending on how you want to do it. Like, that also being a effect of the environment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, scaling threat, and just like, I also, cause like I've been tinkering with abstracting travel, but I do think that in this case, it actually would be fun to kind of go by, kind of do a day by day, like, how do you get through this harsh environment? Like, how do you prep for that? Cause like, that's a tough challenge to deal with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like the ideas that you presented are definitely the ones that I would use. Definitely scaling difficulty based on how deep into the nonsense you go. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's really all I got. It's a form of encounter design, because I know, and I did this a lot early on. I would focus and make encounters for the wrong parts of the game, like having, because like example being, you're traveling on a road you've traveled on before, and the party is attacked by another group of wolves. Like, even though the last time they went through here, they went and killed wolves and then destroyed their den. Like, sure, maybe the first time through the dangerous area, that's fine. But choosing the correct times to create a focus on the encounter and abstracting or like pulling away from the stuff that doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, you want to tell an interesting story, and at least in the games that we play, maybe this stuff is interesting for you, who knows? But at least in my experience, fighting the same like couple of packs of wolves because they have an intricate den on this one road can lead to very boring encounters. So
Yeah.
In terms of like actual battle encounters, I would definitely create like different terrain, like using mountains and like varied elevations, and having like, especially if you're near a mountain, there's the danger of an avalanche. And like, if you have a fight where, you know, the barbarians, like the whole time I'm yelling, you know, that might lead to a avalanche. And now the party has to deal with this very specific deadly threat that's coming to you right now. So these are all things to think about. Like, think about the environment as a whole and using it to your advantage to create interesting and harsh elements as well. But in this case, I would, especially if it's like the first time that the party has ever like adventured through snow, I would make at least that first round trip like harrowing, and like we get into the nitty gritty of how you make it through there. But like, if your whole campaign is centered around, you know, being in a tundra, maybe abstracting it a little and pulling away to get to the more interesting bits. At least in the style that I like to play, feels more fun. Well, those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's one of those things where I like what you say about like actually considering like traveling as like a mechanic, because that's something that I think we all take for granted, and especially with like certain video games where it's like, oh, you can just jump into a fucking horse cart and then go to that city a million times.
Right.
Like, we all in a way kind of take it for granted, and like, you know, in the campaign we're playing right now, we are, you know, trying to be a little bit more aware of when we walk through the city and things like that. But it's one of those things where it's like, I think for us in our day and age, traveling has become so easy and so commonplace that it's like, it's something we don't think about a lot.
Right.
Which is not to suggest that, you know, there were certain routes during certain historical periods that weren't incredibly difficult, but still it was a little bit of a time and investment to actually travel somewhere.
Right.
So yeah, it's something to think about for sure. But you know, if your party's not a traveling party, maybe not. But this might be a cool, interesting way to throw an unescapable threat at them, and really make them think about how fucking hard it is to like travel places. So
absolutely love it.
Shall we wrap her up?
You bet.
Thank you guys for listening to Fandom Roulette. We from the bottom of our hearts here at Fandom Roulette want to thank you so much for listening. On behalf of the entire Fandom Roulette team, we want to wish you a happy holidays, no matter what those holidays might be this season. As you're, you know, preparing, watch your favorite Christmas movie, watch your favorite, you know, holiday thing, listen to the music you want to listen to, have some fun, and you know, at the end of the day, like spend time with your friends and your loved ones and things like that. Because hey, that's like what the season's all about, right? We want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and out of this busy season to give us a listen, be it like, you know, going to pick up Christmas presents or wrapping up things or just trying to get away from people for a little bit at a time. Thanks for thinking about us during this time of the year. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend, talk about us at your holiday party or whatever. Thank you so much. So signing off for Fan Roulette, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.